Our hero, Dan Woo-sung, conquers the world of martial arts, also known as Jang-Hu, and earns the title of Fist King because he uses his fist alone during fights. Unrivaled by everyone, one day he is ambushed by a bunch of goons from the demonic faction. He kills many of them except two. These two are quite strong, and not beyond killing their own comrades in order to meet their means. Their cruelty and the symbol on their weapon expose their identity to Woo-sung. Woo-sung rushes towards one of them while claiming to finish him off with 10 strikes. But each strike misses his vital points, because he is restrained by his opponent's companion with thin threads all over his body. When he strikes 9 times, the puppet master tightens his thread on Woo-sung, holding him in place as the other opponent pierces his body with his sword. Even before taking his last breath, he is able to strike his enemy the 10th time in the jaw. With that, his life ends as Dan Woo-sung, who wishes to hit his enemy once again before his death. He awakens in the Juhua safe house as Lee Jin-yeon, who is the eldest son of the Yunha merchant group. When he wakes up, he checks himself for injuries and is surprised to find none. But when he glances at his new face in the mirror, he first thinks someone has just put a mask on his face. Then he rejects this idea after some inspection. After the maids leave to call for a physician, he decides to learn about his new situation and searches around. While moving, he realizes that this vessel of a body is quite fragile, as even moving around is a big task. Finally, he finds a journal titled Yunha Merchant Group, which is a large and famous merchant group in Juhua Mountain. After checking the journal, he realizes that he is in the body of Lee Jin-yeon, who seems quite a scoundrel, judging by the letters mentioning women and gambling. After some inspection, he concludes the possibility that he has reincarnated as Lee Jin-yeon. At that moment, his physician, Gong-sun, comes in with the smile of a cunning fox and subtly tries to check his pulse. Taking his hand away, he assures him that he is all right. Then the snake of a physician offers him dragon and phoenix soup, claiming it to be a tonic. But in reality, this soup is poison for someone ill like Jin-yeon. Instead of answering him, Jin-yeon subtly wants to know how many years it has been since he died as Dan Woo-sung, and concludes that it has only been a little while ago. It means his enemies are still alive. Thinking about his current physician and his old enemies, he becomes determined to kill all of them, now that he has another chance at life. The days have passed since Dan Woo-sung reincarnated as Lee Jin-yeon. That morning, his maids prepare his breakfast with great enthusiasm, while knowing he will finally eat a proper meal from today onward. Until now, he has been on a strict porridge diet for his health. One maid urges the others to hurry, as Jin-yeon could return from his walk at any moment. Her sentence cuts short when the door opens and Jin-yeon steps inside. He checks the breakfast and tells them to keep it simple from now on, just like this. As he heads to his room, one maid notices his improved physique and comments on his better health, with the others quickly agreeing. After a while, Jin-yeon starts his breakfast, when the sly snake Gong-sun Mung arrives to ruin his mood. Jin-yeon grumpily allows him inside, and Gong-sun immediately senses the rudeness, but still wears a wide grin as he greets him. Jin-yeon meanwhile looks at him skeptically, knowing this man always has some agenda when he grovels. A smirk plays on Jin-yeon's lips as he plans to make him confess his crime. For this purpose, he nonchalantly asks about Gong-sun's reason for being there. At that, Gong-sun launches into his usual melodrama, claiming he can't bear the loneliness, so he comes to see Jin-yeon. Then he subtly comments on how Jin-yeon's complexion looks different, undermining all of Jin-yeon's physical recovery in a single remark. This catches Jin-yeon's attention, and he quips that Gong-sun's effort must mean trying to lure him into drinking dragon phoenix soup. Gong-sun doesn't expect him to know anything about the soup, so he hurriedly explains that dragon phoenix soup is simply a nourishing tonic. Jin-yeon casually remarks that it's toxic. Gong-sun reminds him that he is his physician. Realizing he is about to be caught, Gong-sun immediately makes a dramatic gesture, declaring that since Jin-yeon clearly doesn't need him, he had better leave. Before he can even take a step, Jin-yeon's voice stops him. In a dark tone, Jin-yeon asks if Gong-sun is the master here, since he seems to come and go from his chamber on a whim. Seeing his expression, Jin-yeon laughs while clarifying that he is just joking, and Gong-sun nervously plays along. Then Jin-yeon orders him to bring writing tools, saying he wishes to write a letter. When Gong-sun complies, Jin-yeon tells him to write it instead. He dictates that Gong-sun needs to live in this villa because of a severe illness. He is suffering. His next words catch Gong-sun off guard when he adds that his life is too long, so Gong-sun needs advice from his master on his next course of action. Seeing his expression, Jin-yeon asks why he stopped writing. He tries to laugh off Jin-yeon's words and asks him to elaborate, but before he can finish his sentence, Jin-yeon throws a chopstick at him. It scratches his neck slightly and pierces the wall behind him. Now truly alarmed, Gong-sun checks his wound. Jin-yeon's expression turns serious as he states clearly that he is no longer the Lee Jin-yeon Gong-sun knows. Gong-sun still tries to feign ignorance, but Jin-yeon decides that it is time to confront the snake. He explains bluntly that he knows the dragon phoenix soup is a tonic only for healthy people, but Jin-yeon's body is far too fragile to absorb it as a tonic, making it toxic for someone sick like him. And yet Gongsun, despite being a physician, somehow doesn't know this. He made Jinyan drink the soup just the day before, and the next morning, he was clearly checking Jinyan's pulse to see the effects. Not only that, when Jinyan told him to leave the soup on the counter, his expression revealed unmistakable killing intent. Jinyan states that he knows someone like Gongsun can't act on his own, so he tells him to write the name of his master on the letter. Gongsun first tries a dramatic approach, asking how Jinyan could suspect someone as kind as him. Then he takes a deep theatrical sigh only to drop the act in the next moment and reveal his true colors, sneering that he didn't know a scoundrel like Jinyan had a brain to figure out things. Jinyan understands there is no longer any pretense. Gongsun coldly replies that his true intention is to kill him in silence. Now glancing at the servants, Gongsun decides their blood must also be shed to cover up Jinyan's assassination. But before he can ready his poison needle, Jinyan appears behind him, and with one swift attack, Gongsun is knocked down. Nonchalantly resuming his meal, Jinyan comments that Gongsun really shouldn't get distracted during their conversations. While looking at his bruised hands from his earlier strike on Gongsun, he feels frustrated at his fragile body. All he needs is to recover the strength he once had in his past life. He knows that once he achieves it, he will be unstoppable, enough to face the entire Yunha merchant group if they are truly behind his assassination attempt. For that purpose, he must return to the group to investigate Gongsun further one day. The next moment, he stumbles and sits down as a sudden headache strikes. He remembers Gongsun, and then the memories of this body, Li Jinyan's body, rush into him all at once. After the shockwave settles, a tear slips from his eye as he learns the real story of Jinyan. He was untalented and average, unlike his second and third brothers, who were smart and strong. To overcome his ordinariness, he did what no sane person would do. He began spending money on indulgences, which deteriorated his health to the point where, by the time he realized his mistake, there was no coming back. Under the pretense of helping him recover, he was sent to this villa, which was nothing more than a place of exile. But his clan hardly cared about their untalented eldest son living out his days here. Now living in Jinyan's body, Wusung is determined to restart his martial arts training, something he had delayed because he lacked Jinyan's memories. He feels frustrated at the real owner of this body, who wasted such a perfect body on indulgence. He decides to use his past life knowledge to make this body useful by acquiring some rare elixirs. When he steps inside the villa, his eyes catch sight of the money he has, and he feels relieved to know that he doesn't have financial problems. This means he can easily buy the elixirs he needs. Then his gaze falls on Gongsun, now nothing more than a corpse thanks to his earlier powerful strike. He decides to bury the body. From this day, a year passes in what feels like a single breath. One day, Mok In Seop, a guard squad member from the Yunha merchant group, arrives to deliver a letter for Jinyan. He asks a maid about Jinyan's whereabouts, and she points him toward the place where Jinyan is meditating. As soon as Mok sees his built form, his eyes widen in disbelief because he can't believe he is really looking at Jinyan. During this year, our determined guy has used every moment to strengthen his body. His energy core has now manifested, and he has re-engraved into himself all the martial arts essential for survival, such as the enlightened mobility art, enlightened body art, and rapid strides. Beyond that, he has also learned the White Lightning 10-phase art, which allows him to control the lightning element. Through all this training, he has successfully reached the 4th phase of martial arts. But for someone like him, it is still not enough. At this moment, his training is interrupted by Mok's voice, greeting him and nervously introducing himself. Mok explains that he has brought a letter from the main clan. With calm grace, Jinyan asks him to hand it over. Meanwhile, Mok can hardly believe his eyes. This is the same frail, coughing man he saw last year, and yet now, he stands tall and strong. His thoughts are interrupted by Jinyan's voice, laced with sarcasm, reminding him that he is still waiting for the letter. Coming out of his daze, both Jinyan and Mok settle down as he reads the letter. It informs him of his father's ill health, which has left him bedridden, though no reason is given. Hearing this, Mok voices his suspicions about the Ouyang clan. This clan is nothing but a group of vultures who demand exorbitant fees from the Yunha merchant group under the pretense of providing protection. Over time, the payments have increased to the point where they can no longer be paid lightly. He asks whether the Ouyang clan has done anything significant to deserve such a raise in pay. This truly angers Mok, who vents his frustration at the group, saying they have done nothing to deserve it. He recalls the incident when the Yuna group faced the Little Deity sect, which tried to impose a large sum of tax on their trade. At that time, the Ouyang clan casually told the group they had nothing to do with them, except when they needed to meet for some serious discussion. Mok adds that even the guard captain can't take action because Ouyang Hu is associated with the group. This catches Jinyan's attention, as he knows this name from his Jianghu days. Ouyang Hu, a man quite famous there. Jinyan now clearly sees the picture. Ouyang Hu is someone strong, taking advantage of his power to harass the Yunha merchant group, which he considers too weak to matter. At that moment, he decides that the issue will either end in death or he will personally teach Young-hoo a lesson. Mok is taken aback, but he goes on to mention another matter that has left Jin-yeon's father bedridden. It turns out his younger brothers were foolish enough to start a sword duel in front of the entire Yunha merchant group. He can hardly believe their stupidity, realizing it angered their father so much that he fell ill from the stress. Mok tries to console him, saying the matter has nothing to do with him, but he cuts him off and stands up because he can no longer play a passive role. Mok is startled by his sudden resolve. Our boy then seriously tells Mok to keep the letter because he will see the situation for himself. When Mok returns to his squad, the first thing he does is relay the news to his comrades about how someone like Lee Jin-yeon has become a martial artist. As soon as his companions hear this, they start laughing. Everyone has their own opinion on the matter. Some say he must be good in bed, while others comment that if someone like Jin-yeon can become a martial artist, then they must be legendary martial artists themselves. One of his companions tells him to make a believable joke, for example, how the vice captain has finally found a lover. The said vice captain, Han Yeop, catches their conversation and becomes interested to know whether Jin-yeon has truly regained his health after hitting the man who tried to move him. Then Han Yeop firmly states that Jin-yeon has been a martial artist since childhood, thanks to the gifted body he possesses. Now Han asks the timing of Jin-yeon's return. Mok shows his uncertainty about this matter, as he only mentioned that he is coming back. At that very moment they hear the announcement regarding Jin-yeon's arrival, and they understand it is now. Then Han asks his subordinates to go and greet their young master. They are not happy to hear this, so he sternly reminds them that he is their master no matter what. Meanwhile, Woo-sung, seeing the opulence of the Yuna merchant group's palace for the first time, is truly surprised by how rich it is. In his past life, he had only heard stories about this group, but now, seeing it up close, he realizes that Jin-yeon is not just well off, he is bloody rich. He tells his maids to rest since he is going to visit his father. As he walks ahead, he is surprised by the silence, as no one bothers to greet him. His wish is soon fulfilled when a large number of guards greet him with their swords. Then Han greets him, commenting on how Jin-yeon looks almost unrecognizable. He also expresses his delight at seeing him healthy. Han's subordinates assume he is merely flattering Jin-yeon, believing Han has no pride, since in the past their master always insulted him for his consideration. At that moment, they are also bracing for a crude insult, but they are truly taken aback when Jin-yeon greets them by commenting on how good of a welcome it is for someone troublesome like him. Seeing their shocked expressions, Mok insists that he has already told everyone Jin-yeon has really changed. Noticing this, Han, who is escorting our boy to his father's chamber, has a soft expression on his face, and Jin-yeon finally starts to feel like he is their ally instead of a hostile figure. When they enter, Han informs him that he has already told his father about his arrival, for which he thanks him. Their conversation is interrupted by the hand of his youngest brother, Ja-eon, who greets him with a mocking comment while calling him a pervert. Seeing him like this, Jaeyeon remarks that he looks like a completely different person. When Jin-yeon has the audacity to glare at him, Jaeyeon clenches his fist on his shoulder. Han, who has witnessed Jin-yeon getting beaten by youngest brother in the past, doesn't want him to face the same treatment on his first day back. He gently takes Jaeyeon's hand off Jin-yeon's shoulder while commenting that both brothers should be happy to see each other after such a long time. But to his shock, Jaeyeon slaps Han for touching him without permission. Jaeyeon doesn't like his poor behavior toward him and warns him, while asking if he is looking down on him. Next moment, he declares that he is ready to teach him a lesson. Before he can act, our dude slaps him hard enough to knock him to the ground. Jaeyeon is completely baffled by this. The next moment, Jin-yeon clenches his fist on Jaeyeon's shoulder, letting him feel his strength, while expressing that he was quite excited on his way here. Jaeyeon shouts in pain, babbling profanities at his brother while calling him insane. Hearing this, our guy deadpans that he will be calling him Big Brother from now on. Meanwhile, Lee Hwa-yeon, the Yuna merchant group's second son, notices quite a commotion in front of his father's room. He asks Han about it, and the vice captain comments that there is an argument between his eldest and younger brothers. To hear this, Hwa-yeon immediately assumes it will be Jaeyeon harassing their eldest brother and rushes inside, worried about her big brother's ill condition. But he is startled to see it is actually Jin-yeon, sternly warning his younger brother to be quiet when they are in front of their father's room. Then he notices middle brother presence. After a moment, Hwa-yeon settles in front of his eldest brother, who gives Jaeyeon a punishment to keep his hands in the air. Seeing him, Hwa-yeon feels relieved to see he is healthy. However, Jaeyeon is clearly unhappy with the situation. Jin-yeon assures him that he is healthy now. Then he notices Hwa-yeon's injured fist and asks whether Jaeyeon did it. Hwa-yeon tries to brush off the question, but our boy furiously turns to his youngest brother and slaps him hard for raising his hand against his elder brother. Poor Jaeyeon has no choice but to comply if he doesn't want more beating. He can't believe he is the same weak Jinyeon who used to massage his shoulder because he was scared of getting another beating from his youngest brother. The scene brings a nervous happiness to Hwa Eon's face as he thinks about how Jinyeon is now beating Jaeyeon, while in the past, it was the other way around. Then Jinyeon also settles down. Hwa Eon is curious about his change in personality and body, but instead of answering him, he simply comments that he has good eyes, as his gaze catches the scrolls in front of his middle brother. While opening one, he asks about the contents inside. Hwa Eon explains that the scroll holds the list of employees who are going to accompany him to the conference room tomorrow. Then he checks the list of employees and notices Gongsun's name, as it is his main purpose to inquire about any employee. After checking the list, he immediately knows what he wants to know, that Gongsun, along with many other employees, is recommended by none other than Young-hoo. Then he seriously turns to his brothers and darkly asks whether both or one of them are working for Young-hoo. Both brothers furiously deny it, insisting they can't hand their merchant group over to that clan. He smiles, seeing that he doesn't need to eliminate his brothers because they are telling the truth. With the decision made, he gets up and asks whether all of the higher-ups will be at the conference. His nerdy brother answers affirmatively. At that, he declares his decision to attend the conference as well. Before they can protest, he leaves the room, ignoring their objections. They are completely dumbfounded to see their brother's sudden change in personality. At that moment, Jaeyeon wishes to go to Juhua Mountain as well. Meanwhile, Jinyeon stands in front of his father's room and enters with his permission. His father, the merchant group leader Seongmin, notices him immediately. He asks about the commotion outside, but Jinyeon just brushes it off while sitting down. Then he mentions how he has heard rumors of his father being under stress. His father confirms it by adding that he is always under stress, but now his old body is not strong enough to withstand it. Then his father raises his hand to touch his son's face, feeling how healthy and changed he looks. He asks whether he is really Jinyeon. When his father expresses his happiness to see him well and touches him tenderly, something stirs inside him. As Woo-sung, he never knows the feeling of having a parent, but he knows how it feels to have a father. He remembers his father as someone strong and broad-built, but now, taking his hand in his own, he realizes how fragile his target has become. At that, he consoles him, saying he is going to get rid of all that has brought him to this condition. His father doesn't believe it, but he stresses that Seongmin doesn't need to worry about anything as he is the one to handle it. Seeing his determined expression, even his father starts to sweat. The next day, everyone gathers at the Yunha Merchant Group's conference room, where Hwa Eon is briefing everyone. Young-hoo is also present there. His subordinates, who are wondering about him, immediately notice Jinyeon's presence. Yang assumes that Jinyeon has come here to solidify his position in the group. Meanwhile, after Hwa Eon finishes his briefing, he asks whether anyone has any objections. Before he can proceed, Young-hoo raises his hand, saying he has a demand to make. He suggests a person who can serve as a guard for Jinyeon, as he currently doesn't have one. At that, a commotion stirs within the Yunha Merchant Group over this intrusion, as there are already plenty of employees recommended by Young-hoo. But the person who tries to speak against it is threatened by Young-hoo, which shuts him up. Then Young-hoo asks whether anyone has any objections to his suggestion. Everyone remains silent, too scared to speak. Just as he is about to proceed, our boy raises his hand to remind him that he does, in fact, have objections. He then seriously gives his own suggestion to fire the squad guard leader, Young-hoo. The Yunha Merchant Group members grow worried upon hearing this, while the Young clan chuckles, assuming he must be joking, as Young-hoo is considered necessary for the merchant group's security. Young-hoo, however, is arrogant. He informs our boy that he has been bedridden for so long that he doesn't know he has no right to fire him. The next moment, Jinyeon does what no one expects. He punches the land so hard that it almost shakes the building. Then, deadpanning, he reminds this snake that despite Young's influence, he is forgetting that Jinyeon is the real master of the Yunha Merchant Group. A little while ago, he had already informed Hwa Eon about his plan to fire Young-hoo. Hwa Eon, however, doesn't think it is a good idea because the Young clan is more powerful than them. Instead of answering directly, he asks, when someone underestimates the martial artists of Jong-hoo, aren't they eaten alive because of their arrogant assumptions? Then he points out how many employees around them are from the Young clan, making it feel like the Yunha Merchant Group is being swallowed whole by them. His nerdy brother, noticing this, understands what he is trying to say. Then Jinyeon assures him that he doesn't need to worry because he is going to handle it. Now, looking at his elder brother, Hwa Eon understands with a nervous smile exactly how his elder brother plans to handle it. Seeing this, the Young clan immediately draws their swords in a threatening manner, demanding that he explain himself. Hans is furious at their insolence in raising swords against their master. He steps in front of Jinyeon to protect him, but with an unfazed expression, our boy remarks on how insolent it is for the Young clan to raise their swords against their employer. He threatens them in a dark tone, warning that they must have a death wish. Then, he suddenly changes the direction of the conversation, saying he is going to compensate Young-hoo because he feels bad. Young-hoo is confused upon hearing this. Jin-yeon explains that he has ruined Young-hoo's perfect retirement plan. Then he elaborates on what Young-hoo was really planning. First, he would eliminate Jin-yeon through Gong-sun. Then, as he was already making Jin-yeon's other two brothers clash with each other, it worked in Young's favor that their father fell ill because of this conflict. In the end, all Young would need to do was manipulate one of the brothers and use him as a puppet to gain full control over the Yunha merchant group. At that, Young starts laughing, claiming that Jin-yeon is just making up stories. But he continues, deadpanning that Young's plan began to fall apart the moment he personally killed Young's assassin, Gong-sun. Young-hoo's eyes widen at this revelation. He can't believe what he has just heard. Our boy adds that he killed the poor assassin with one strike, giving him an easy death. Then he casually says that Young-hoo should put in more effort to make a proper plan if he wants to control the merchant group. Besides, he adds, he will also be charging him for the damages he has caused. Now Young has had enough of Jin-yeon's words. Furious, he raises his fist and threatens to kill him. Before he can even land a blow, Jin-yeon blocks his fist with his own. The moment their fists clash, Young-hoo senses a surge of lightning energy, making him realize that Jin-yeon has truly become a martial artist. Everyone around them is also shocked to witness the display of power from our dude. Jin-yeon, on the other hand, dramatically remarks that Young is attacking someone who has just finished recuperating. Then he declares that he will let it slide, because they are going to have an official duel. Someone announces the beginning of the official duel. Young-hoo asks whether that will be enough. With a cocky expression, he claims that they are going to duel until one of them is dead. After hearing this, Young-hoo calmly remarks that it seems Jin-yeon must have been trained under a good sect, judging by his efficiency and skill in martial arts. But, raising his sword, he claims he is going to make him understand the difference in experience between the two of them. Jin-yeon, however, swiftly dodges his attack and doesn't appreciate the taunt about experience. While ducking, he drives his fist into Young's gut, declaring that he has 100 years more experience than Young-hoo. Young-hoo coughs up blood, unable to comprehend the true scale of Jin-yeon's skill. Jin-yeon, on the other hand, activates his enlightened mobility art and promises to show Young what the real difference in experience looks like. Now moving at the speed of lightning, he strikes at Young, who manages to block the blow with his sword. The two clash repeatedly, Young-hoo slashing with his blade, Jin-yeon countering with his bare fists, but every strike our boy throws is blocked by Young's sword. During their fight, Young-hoo is completely confused by Jin-yeon's techniques because it's nothing like how a rookie would fight. His skills match those of a seasoned martial artist. However, despite this, Young is determined to finish Jin-yeon off. Seeing his stance, his subordinates are pleased, thinking their captain is finally about to end the fight. With that, Young activates his three-form sword art. Jin-yeon immediately ducks his head to avoid the strike and activates his rapid strike. He moves so fast that Young doesn't even sense his change in position. The next moment, Young takes a devastating punch to the jaw. The impact is so powerful that it's visible even from the main house. Servants witnessing the scene murmur in confusion, while his father, wearing a proud expression, declares that his eldest son has mastered martial arts. When Young-hoo collapses, his subordinates rush to his side. Seeing their captain's condition, they are furious. One even glares at Jin-yeon, but he silences him instantly with a deadly threat. Another subordinate admits that there were no irregularities in the duel. However, before leaving, he warns that if this is the way Jin-yeon wishes to act, then the Young clan will adopt the same method to take revenge on the Yunha merchant group, something that, he claims, will be impossible for them to avoid. But Jin-yeon doesn't care about such petty grudges as he's never been new to them. He will repay whatever they give him, whether it's a grudge or kindness. Besides, he claims full responsibility for the incident, which prompts a protest from Hwa-yeon. Yet Jin-yeon looks firmly at everyone and declares that, despite his earlier claim that the Yunha merchant group belongs to him, it also belongs to his father, to the squad that welcomed him this morning, and to every employee who works there. Therefore, he will not allow anyone to toy with his merchant group. With that, he orders them to leave, saying he was firing them anyway. Everyone is pleased by his speech, except for the Young clan, who leave reluctantly, wishing him good luck in dealing with their clan in the future. As they go, one employee is about to cheer, but another quickly stops him, reminding him that Jin-yeon had won an official duel. Another guard adds that they can't celebrate. After all, they are the guard squad, yet instead of doing their duty, they stood and watched the entire time. Unfazed by the commotion, Jin-yeon turns to Hwa-yeon and tells him to bring him an elixir. Since he has already taken sole responsibility for the matter, he deserves at least that much. Hwa-yeon chuckles and assures his brother that he will bring the best elixir, adding that he is going to be busy from now on. Not only will he be buying elixirs, but he also needs to hire new people for the guard squad. At this, Jin-yeon mentions that he already has some people in mind who can fill the job. Meanwhile, somewhere inside a private room, Myung-ho receives the news about Jin-yeon's recent actions. His subordinates confirm that the news is indeed true. Actually, our boy has already thought through all of this a few days ago, the moment he set foot in the Una merchant group. He has been analyzing the employee patterns as well. On his very first day here, while on the way somewhere, he suddenly stops and asks Han whether he has eaten. Completely caught off guard by the considerate question, Han answers negatively as he hasn't had time to eat since dawn because of work. Jinyeon then glances downstairs, where a few Ouyang clan members are wasting time in useless conversation. In that instant, he understands the group's dynamic. The loyal Unha merchant group employees work so hard they can't even make time for a meal, while the Ouyang clan members enjoy easy money, slacking off during working hours without any real obligations. Han addresses him again, but instead of answering, his mind drifts to the solution. If he suddenly fires the Ouyang members, the group will be left without security, as he will need people to fill their place. After giving it some thought, he knows exactly where to find the perfect replacements for those idle employees. For this purpose, he heads to a shady gambling den, the kind of place that looks like only criminals would frequent. As soon as he steps inside, he catches the eyes of several people. Some point at him, calling him a pushover. They are surprised to see him after so long. Some even assume he's been dead for years. Believing he has come to gamble, they prepare to watch him lose his wealth. When he enters the main hall, the guard there greets him with excitement, assuming he's about to spend a fortune. But this Jinyeon is not the man they remember. With a subtle yet sharp insult, he warns the guard not to touch him, leaving the man grumpy. Then, without further pleasantries, Jinyeon orders him to open the door. Inside, Chul Myung-ho, known as the Poisonous Fox, glances at his former friend and comments that his improved health must be the result of a long recuperation. His companions Yuk Jinbo and Yuk Myung-ho also greet him. Myung-ho, with a smirk, reminds them to at least ask after Jinyeon's well-being since he's been sick for so long. At that, both Yuk brothers apologize, while Myung-ho mockingly claims that Jinyeon is his friend. Jinyeon scoffs at this so-called friendship. On the surface, it looks as if they're childhood buddies, but in reality, Myung-ho has always used this false camaraderie as a way to harass him and squeeze money out of him, exploiting his weaknesses. With a serious expression, he wonders if the new generation has come up with an entirely different and twisted definition of friendship. Unaware of Jinyeon's true thoughts, Myung-ho eagerly urges him to start gambling, claiming it's been far too long. In truth, Myung-ho is itching to fleece him for a hefty sum, confident that no one else would be foolish enough to fall into his trap. Feigning friendliness, Myung-ho insists he'll treat him in honor of his return. But when he offers no immediate response, Myung-ho grows irritated and pushes him to say something. Jinyeon calmly replies that he's thinking. When his vulture of a friend presses to know what he's thinking about, Jinyeon, instead of answering, he simply sits in silence for a moment, weighing his options whether should he kill Myung-ho or not. To him, Myung-ho is nothing more than a useless scumbag he has no interest in keeping around. The only ones of value here are the Yuk brothers, who, despite living as thugs, actually have skills worth using, their skill wasted under someone like Myung-ho. With that decision simmering in his mind, Jinyeon stands up and calmly tells Myung-ho to hand over the key to the vault. Myung-ho blinks in surprise, asking why Jinyeon suddenly needs money. Jinyeon answers evenly, assuring him that this is just a one-time cash withdrawal. But, he adds, the interest Myung-ho owes him for the thousands of nyang he was forced to invest in this gambling den, plus medical compensation for the times Myung-ho had him beaten, brings the total to around 100,000 nyang. That should be enough. Myung-ho bursts into laughter, mocking him and asking if he learned his math during his time away. With smug arrogance, he points out that the vault doesn't just contain the money Jinyeon is demanding, it's also filled with gold, silver, and jewelry. Still, he says, Jinyeon is a fool if he thinks he'll get any of it. At best, his so-called offers, he could lend him some money if he's desperate, but the vault key is out of the question. Myung-ho's irritation grows as he recalls the times our boy complained to be sick, only to now stand here, healthy, and dare to demand the vault key while blatantly ignoring him. He coldly tells Jinyeon to come to his senses, reminding him exactly who's standing in front of him. When Jinyeon still doesn't bother to answer, Myung-ho steps in close, his face almost touching his, and asks if he's wishing for death at his hands. Again, no answer. Finally giving up on words, Myung-ho snaps an order to his minions to beat Jinyeon to a pulp. One of the Yuk brothers grabs him from behind, preparing to slam his head onto the table. But Jinyeon's expression darkens. This, he realizes, is him being kind. The next moment, he hurls one Yuk brother straight into the wall. The other rushes forward, but Jinyeon sidesteps, using the table for leverage, and in a flash shatters his ankle. That brother goes down instantly. Jinyeon turns back, surprised to see the Yuk brothers rising again despite their broken bones, their eyes completely devoid of fear. That sight actually excites him as he's fired up now to get them. Both brothers charge at him together, but within seconds, Jinyeon vanishes from their line of sight. In the blink of an eye, he's behind them, moving with blinding speed. He grabs both of their heads and slams them together, reminding them coldly that he's not going to warn them again. Now, with the rowdy brothers down, the only one left is cowardly Myung-ho, who's been hiding behind them. Jin-yeon turns to his old friend with a sinister smile. Myung-ho, trying to mask his fear, nervously speaks to Jin-yeon in a friendly tone, suggesting he should tell his friends about learning martial arts, all while keeping one hand hidden behind him. He eyes him suspiciously, questioning his reason but responding with his usual calm demeanor. When Jin-yeon steps toward him, Myung-ho's fear spikes, and he reveals the knife, warning him not to come closer. He tries to remind himself there's nothing to be afraid of as it's just Jin-yeon after all. With determination, Myung-ho rushes forward, planning to end the fight in a single strike. He smirks from behind the table, thinking it will shield him. But Jin-yeon kicks the table aside, and in the next moment, one punch from him shatters it into pieces. All that remains is a stunned, speechless Myung-ho, whose head he seizes in his grip. Then he smiles and calmly says that the counter-strike wins this time. The next moment, Myung-ho shrieks in pain as Jin-yeon sends lightning energy coursing through his body. Outside, a guard mutters that someone's going to die today. After the shocking burst, Myung-ho collapses to the floor, drenched in sweat. Jin-yeon, unfazed, tells him to get a grip. With difficulty, Myung-ho lifts his head, his eyes burning with humiliation as he wonders what Jin-yeon has been doing during his recuperation. The thought creeps in, whether Jin-yeon trained all this time just to take revenge on him. He tries to defend himself, thinking he hasn't been that bad to him. But recalling his past behavior toward Jin-yeon, the conclusion feels unavoidable. This is payback. Forcing a nervous smile, Myung-ho tells our boy to demand anything, except the vault key. That makes Jin-yeon pause. This is exactly what he wanted to hear. Myung-ho quickly reminds him that despite his bad behavior, they've been childhood friends, and he reluctantly plays along. Hearing this, Myung-ho's face brightens, and he immediately hugs a very irritated Jin-yeon, assuring him there will be no more beatings or harassment from now on. Jin-yeon doesn't buy it. He pushes him off, grimacing, and says his sweet words are making him sick. Despite his irritation, Myung-ho keeps talking, insisting they aren't just friends while he's promoting him to brother. He immediately turns to his minions and orders them to greet their big brother. Both of them obey without question, looking rather clueless. Inside, however, Myung-ho is smirking, thinking how Jin-yeon is someone who once lived at his feet and followed him like a puppy. The moment he gets the chance, he plans to grab his guards and run. He's certain he can deal with any other problem afterward. On the other side, Jin-yeon addresses the twins directly, telling them that when he calls someone brother, that bond lasts for a lifetime. The Yuk brothers glance at Myung-ho for approval, and Myung-ho urges them to swear, declaring that they are now sworn brothers. The twins immediately pledge their loyalty to Jin-yeon as their big brother. Myung-ho feels satisfied with the progress, until his blood runs cold when Jin-yeon darkly orders the Yuk brothers to step aside, saying that he and Myung-ho are going to decide who the real big brother is. Despite Myung-ho's protests, the twins leave the room. Now completely unsettled, Myung-ho has no idea what his true motive is. Our dude calmly reminds him that he was the one who made money by exploiting the twins. That's not the right way, so now Jin-yeon is going to take responsibility for them. Knowing full well that the brothers are worth more than money, Myung-ho protests furiously, accusing Jin-yeon of not only beating him, but also trying to take the brothers away. He snarls that it would be better to kill him outright. As rude as the remark is, Jin-yeon decides to grant the sentiment by kicking Myung-ho in the jaw the next moment. He coldly tells him he's doing a great job and proceeds to use him as a punching bag until Myung-ho finally understands that Jin-yeon isn't bound by any reluctance to kill him. At last, Myung-ho mumbles that he'll give him what he wants, but Jin-yeon casually tells him to say it aloud. Defeated, Myung-ho finally agrees to hand over the key. Jin-yeon smirks and reminds Myung-ho that he should show that he's begging for his life. Myung-ho still has the audacity to scoff at the demand, mocking whether he should be more respectful instead. He learns his lesson quickly when Jin-yeon throws him aside, leaving him to wonder if he's gone insane. As soon as the Yuk brothers see him, they immediately turn to ask whether he's lost. With no choice left, Myung-ho confesses that he is lost and that from now on, they will be serving Jin-yeon. The sheer humiliation makes Myung-ho feel like crying. For a brief moment, he thinks like a sensible human being and decides to let the brothers go so they can have a better life with the Yunha merchant group. But when both brothers look at each other and agree to serve Jin-yeon, Myung-ho's irritation flares again at what he sees as their ingratitude. After the matter is settled, Myung-ho storms out, irritated and muttering while complaining about never trusting black-haired people. As soon as those around him notice he's without the Yuk twins, they're ready to beat him now that his security is gone. Seeing the hostile faces surrounding him, Myung-ho's arrogance flares that he's still the poisonous fox, and he reminds them of it with a loud shout. He even has the guts to challenge them to come at him. The men take the bait, weapons in hand, their fury boiling over. Cursing his luck for leaving in this state, Myung-ho prepares for the worst, but before anyone reaches him, Jin-yeon steps in to defend him. Jin-yeon remarks how these vultures didn't dare approach Myung-ho when he was strong, yet now they're ready to devour him while he's vulnerable. He orders them to come for Myung-ho only when he's strong enough to fight back. Then he instructs the Yuk brothers to collect every valuable item. As they move to carry out his orders, Myung-ho continues cursing at everyone and everything, Jin-yeon included. When they arrive in front of his home, the Yuk brothers thank him for saving their former master. The gratitude catches him off guard for a moment. Looking at the twins, he recalls the rumors that some say they were sold to Myung-ho as slaves, others that they followed him out of fear. Yet, seeing their genuine concern for Myung-ho, Jin-yeon smiles softly to himself, realizing that understanding true human nature is far more complex than it seems. Meanwhile, from behind a pillar, someone watches carefully, making sure that Jin-yeon is truly there. Now, in the present, things fall back into rhythm, but Jae-yeon is not happy with the progress. He is still grumbling about not having a quiet day until his big brother returns. He remembers the sudden appearance of money and jewels from the gambling den along with the Yuk brothers, and the thought makes him fume with resentment. The next moment, he sees a cart coming inside with new supplies. Hwa-yeon checks them carefully, instructing his servants to be cautious with the goods and leaving the cart there, explaining that the items are quite precious. Seeing this, Jae-yeon grows curious about the contents of the cart. His eyes brighten when he spots a 100-year tuber fleece flower, so rare that people line up since dawn just to gather one. He assumes it must have been brought in at his order. At that moment, their father steps outside. Hwa-yeon quickly rushes to him, reminding him that it is still too early for him to be out in his condition. Jae-yeon, however, is far more interested in finding out for whom his father brought so much elixir. He recalls that Jin-yeon only needed one, so he is hopeful he might get at least one for himself. But his face pales when he hears that all of them are for Jin-yeon. Their father explains that, after what happened with the Uyang clan, they cannot risk relying on a single elixir. Besides, it's not much, judging by the sheer amount of money they already wasted on the Uyang clan and the little deity sect. So, after considering the matter, he sends letters to the heads of their local branch offices and some big names in the elixir industry, requesting high-quality elixir supplies. They agree to help, as their businesses are interconnected and suffer from each other's losses. At that, Han supports his decision to aid Jin-yeon, trusting him to become a great martial artist. Seongmin thanks him for the support. Then, despite the disheartened face of his youngest son, he declares that he has finally found the perfect way to spend the money he has earned all his life. Jae-yeon is furious to learn all of this. He steps into his father's way and demands that he be given an elixir as well. His father looks at him for a moment and then asks if he really needs one. Jae-yeon becomes even more enraged at this, hearing only the constant praise of his eldest brother's name. He truly believes there is discrimination against him and cannot understand why someone like Jin-yeon keeps getting this kind of attention. His question is answered not with words, but with our boy's actions. When he rushes past him at lightning speed, the force of his movement knocks Jae-yeon down as Lee passes, dragging a massive boulder on his back. Looking at his brother's determined, sweat-covered face, Jae-yeon concludes that someone like his eldest brother, who already has a strong build and innate confidence, is finally putting in the effort to make it work. He lies back on the ground with a sigh, then glances thoughtfully at his sword. After a while, encouraged by his brother's vigorous training, Jae-yeon begins practicing his sword art on a training dummy. He recalls the move Jin-yeon had used on Uyang-hu during their official duel. After some training, he sighs, frustrated that he can't fully grasp the extent of Jin-yeon's skill, all while cursing him under his breath. Almost as if summoned by that thought, Jin-yeon appears before him, startling his poor baby brother. Nervously, Jae-yeon asks about his walk. Jin-yeon explains that he's finished with it. Then, realizing what his youngest brother has been doing, he offers him his sword and tells him to review the move Uyang-hu used against him, while adding praise for his brother's skills. Embarrassed, Jae-yeon realizes that his brother had been watching his training. Taking the sword, Jae-yeon gets up and with determination attacks the dummy. Feeling cocky about his move, his confidence is instantly crushed when Jin-yeon calls it sloppy. Jae-yeon, now irritated at his brother's sharp tongue, snaps back. But the next moment, Jin-yeon's fist comes at him, only for Jae-yeon to block it at the last second with his sword. Then Jin-yeon explains how he destroyed Uyang-hu's feint, closed the distance, and left him completely helpless, forced only to defend. He says all this while still kicking at his younger brother. Jae-yeon tries to reason with him, suggesting they talk things out instead of resorting to fists, but Jin-yeon, clearly in the mood to train his brother, doesn't listen. Left with no choice, Jae-yeon grabs his sword again and decides to go along with it. When he rushes forward to attack, he's stunned to see Jin-yeon simply vanish. An instant later, Jin-yeon ambushes him from behind, remarking that normal people show their true potential when they're cornered. With that, he draws back his fist to punch, but stops just short before it can hit Jae-yeon. Scared, Jae-yeon falls back onto the ground, clearly thinking he might be killed. Jin-yeon explains that in swordsmanship, stabbing has a lower success rate than slashing. He adds that Uyang-hu used a one-hit kill technique, attempting a three-form sword style against him. This technique requires extreme caution, so Jinyan measured his speed carefully in order to counter it. Otherwise, he would have been finished that day. While raising his sword at his brother, Jinyan recalls his match against Ouyang Hu. Someone like Ouyang would have been finished before he could even draw his sword if he still had the full potential of his past life body. But right now, his body hasn't even reached a quarter of the strength he once possessed as the Fist King. Because of that, he can't simply celebrate a win against Ouyang Hu. His thoughts drift to his assassins from demonic faction and the realization that they are even more powerful than him. This fuels his determination to surpass the strength he had in his past life. His reflection is interrupted by the voice of a maid, informing him that he has a visitor. Before leaving to attend to his guest, Jinyan pokes his younger brother on the forehead once again. Somewhere else, a group of men are discussing the ridiculous rumor they've heard that a womanizer like Jinyan actually knows martial arts. Gu Eng, who doesn't believe the story, explains how last night he went to the gambling den in a drunken state. There, he spotted Jinyan with the Yuk brothers, loading items from the den. He immediately recognized him, but before he could return after throwing up, he was gone. Jujiruang and Sima Guk then state that they came here to verify the rumor themselves. When they open the door to his chamber, they find him inside with the Yuk brothers. Seeing his muscular build, they quickly shut the door again and ask the maid whether he is really Jinyan or if some merchant group has adopted him. The maid confirms it's truly their young master. The men look like they're about to faint, trying to process the shocking difference between the Jinyan they just saw and the frivolous playboy from the 4 heavenly kings they thought they knew. At that moment, Jinyan opens the door, scaring the life out of them. He calmly orders his maid to feed the twins and give them a large amount of food, as they eat a lot. Once they leave, he turns his attention to his old crew, who are clearly terrified of him. He asks why they're there. Too frightened to explain, they simply pray for their own safety. Sima Guk, Jujiaryang, Gu Eng, and our boy Jinyan form a group known as the 4 Heavenly Kings, whose main purpose is to indulge in women and wine. Now these 4 friends are sitting together, finally enjoying a quiet meal. While looking at them, Jinyan remembers Myungho, who also claimed to be his friend, but these idiots are different. They're more like partners in mischief, their world revolving almost entirely around women and wine. Jaryang breaks the silence by asking about Jinyan's well-being, while Gu Eng checks his muscles, unable to believe that Jinyan has actually been training. Sima, however, silently observes both his demeanor and his physique. He concludes that this transformation isn't something training alone could achieve. Jinyan has truly become a martial artist. Then they ask about his source of martial arts knowledge, since it's impossible for him to be self-taught in such skills. Jinyan gives them an ambiguous answer, saying he was just lucky. Sima remarks that it must be something like the legends they've only heard about in the Jianghu. Jaryang adds that he almost didn't recognize him at all. Then, out of nowhere, Jinyan states that their friend, Jinyan, is dead, which makes their expressions shift immediately. Still hopeful, Jaryang asks about their next course of action. Jinyan explains vaguely that he has a debt to repay, and in order to settle it, he's preparing the Yuna merchant group. His current goal is no longer to drift aimlessly, but to become stronger. Gu Eng and Jaryang are dumbfounded, murmuring to each other about this sudden change. Sima, however, wears a more serious expression. He recalls the time when Jinyan left under the guise of recuperating, but Jinyan knew it was actually a form of exile. He had been disheartened, realizing that his father was disappointed enough to send him away. Sima had tried to cheer him up, consoling him and encouraging him to use the time wisely to study and change himself. Back then, Jinyan laughed in response while agreeing to change before Sima could bid him farewell. Remembering the incident, Sima sincerely congratulates his friend for changing for the better. For a moment, all of them pause, then agree with Sima while recalling the time Jinyan left, and the others didn't show up because of their usual hangovers. Seeing them bicker like this, he sighs softly, realizing that these alcohol-loving idiots are the real friends of Jinyan. Pouring alcohol for his friends, he asks about their own plans now that he has changed. At that, they all nervously declare that they are not the type to change. Still, while celebrating, they're happy that at least Jinyan has stepped out from the shadow of their group to face the world. After a day of drinking and laughter, all his friends leave, greeting him warmly and reminding him to reach out if he needs them. On their way back, they once again discuss Jinyan's transformation, and Sima suggests they head home. Jaryang teases him about a possible betrothal, but Sima simply tells him to go home and study. Their banter continues until they decide to settle into Sweet Scent House to get even more drunk. Meanwhile, at the same Sweet Scent House, the sect leader of the little deity sect, Yomji Sang, is furious upon hearing about Ouyang Hu's death. Members of the Ouyang clan recount everything about the official duel between Jinyan and their captain. When the sect leader asks about the weapon Jinyan used, they answer that the former Fist King relied solely on his fists. Hearing this, the sect leader's expression darkens with displeasure. The Ouyang clan members again press for revenge, but the sect leader reminds them that they cannot seek vengeance for a fair duel. Ouyang's clan member protests, saying that the sect leader and Ouyang Hu were supposed to be friends, and that he should honor this bond. Yom Jisang's temper flares, and he snaps that he has no obligation to a dead man. He then orders them to take the corpse away and apologize to his escort for the trouble. Afterward, Yom Jisang's thoughts wander to another problem, as the Yuna merchant group has refused to pay their tax. Without Ouyang as their trump card, they have lost their leverage. His subordinate reminds him that their refusal to pay means they no longer acknowledge the sect's authority. Yom Jisang agrees. The subordinate then asks if he plans to kill them, but their leader Shakes replies that they are not some underworld goons. The subordinate presses, asking if he intends to simply let them go. Before he can respond, Yom Jisang spots 3 of Jinion's friends still chatting about their friend's transformation. He notices their presence and walks past them, intentionally mentioning the Yuna merchant group. Speaking just loud enough for them to hear, he muses aloud about how much wealth Jinion's father and Jinion himself as the heir must hold. Sima catches the remark immediately and takes the bait. After that, Sima rushes to his friends and tells him everything, but Jinion only yawns at the news. Sima reminds him that they might attack at any moment, especially since they no longer have a security squad after eliminating Ouyang Hu. Meanwhile, Jinion is already thinking about the little deity sect, which is something Mok has already informed him about. After a brief moment of thought, he asks Sima where the sect members are now. Sima replies that they're at their base. Jinion then tells him to come inside and hands him a robe to put on. His loyal friend complies while asking again about their exact location. Jinion answers that they're at the guard squad's warehouse. When Sima realizes that he plans to head straight to the little deity sect's base, he freaks out. He reminds Jinion that it's just the 2 of them, while the entire sect will be there and they don't even have a proper plan. While taking out his weapon, Jinion clarifies to his friend that this is the plan. Then, pressing the knife lightly against Sima's throat, he orders him to lead the way. His poor friend has no choice but to guide him to the little deity sect's base, where dozens of guards stand watch over the main gate. Finally, at the entrance, Sima reminds him that he's useless in a fight. He calmly tells his friend to leave, as he's going inside alone. Sima is a little disappointed by the dismissal and warns him again about the danger of charging into a place with hundreds of guards. But Jinion simply slams the door open and declares that he's going to do exactly what he used to do in his past life. As Dan Wusung, our boy's life rule is simple: never back down from a fight. Not when he's just an orphan struggling with the world of Jianghu, and not even during his reign as the Fist King. Even now he refuses to step aside, especially when it comes to his love for battle. The moment everyone notices the door swing open, they turn toward him. But our dude strolls in without a trace of fear and asks for their leader. One guard, furious at the intruder's audacity, steps forward to beat him. But Jinion moves faster, while grabbing the man by the neck and knocking him down in one swift motion. The guards warn him that he's standing in their den. Before the fight escalates, the sect leader himself appears, drawn by the commotion, and demands to know his identity. Jinion calmly claims to be an assassin. The sect leader is amused as he's never in his life seen an assassin walk in so brazenly. Then his eyes fall on Jinion's bruised fist, and a memory stirs about the conversation he had with a member of the Ouyang clan. In an instant, he realizes exactly who stands before him: Jinion. Our dude haughtily replies that he might be Jinion. This brightens the sect leader's face, as he certainly wasn't expecting someone like him to barge into his territory, but it makes things far easier. He fully intends to take advantage of this opportunity. Without hesitation, he orders his guards to seize him. Meanwhile, our guy recalls the last time he fought multiple opponents in his past life. As the battle begins, he's aware that his current body isn't at the same peak strength as before, but that doesn't mean he can't enjoy the fight. With each strike, he knocks down guards left and right, punching and flooring them in rapid succession. Some guards instinctively back away, shaken by the monstrous strength he displays while fighting so many opponents barehanded. Then suddenly he freezes for a moment as an arrow slices across his cheek from behind. Turning with a smirk, he cheekily accuses the sect leader of showing off his flashy weapon. The sect leader admits the sword is indeed expensive, and one he rarely uses, but for someone like this powerful intruder, he's willing to make an exception. Then, at the sect master's order, the guards at Jinion's feet pin him in place, while dozens more perch on the roof with loaded bowguns aimed at him. Our boy thinks with bitter irony, so the sect master doesn't even have the honor to fall alongside his own men. But suddenly, he hears Sima's voice calling out to him, followed by a knife sailing through the air. Jinion catches it mid-flight and in one smooth motion deflects all the incoming arrows. The force of the deflection also loosens the guard's grip on him. The sect leader stares in disbelief at what he's just witnessed. Our boy gives his loyal friend a thumbs up, then turns back to the fight. He hurls the blade toward the sect leader, the edge grazing past the man's neck. In a dark tone, he declares that the sect leader is the only exception for whom he's willing to use a blade instead of his fist. Now desperate, the sect leader orders his subordinates to kill him. But before he can react, our boy is already upon him, fists ready. The cowardly leader doesn't hesitate to use his own lover as a human shield. In a swift, controlled strike, Jinyan punches the man while simultaneously pulling the woman to safety. He tells her to leave, then turns his gaze back to the sect leader, now cowering like a cornered animal. Just like every other opponent Jinyan has faced, this man realizes he can't possibly be the heir of the Yuna merchant group. Only a professional martial artist could fight like this. To save his life, the sect leader offers Jinyan a generous sum of money. Before the man can even finish his sentence, our boy slams a fist into him, knocking him to the ground. With cold finality, Jinyan declares that he doesn't need money from someone who values it more than human life. After beating him thoroughly, he ends the man's life, his expression twisted in disgust at the sight of this scum's blood. With the matter settled, Jinyan leaves alongside his friend and the sect leader's lover. Sima offers to escort the woman, and Jinyan agrees. The two part ways. As they walk, the woman quickly recognizes Sima. Flustered, he unmasks him while she tells him that she's seen him many times at the Sweet Scent House. She thanks him sincerely, and promises to treat him to high-quality wine the next time he visits. He brushes off the offer, declaring that he won't be going to any betrothal next time. She comments softly on his transformation. Glancing at his friend, he calmly says that he's willing to embrace change, inspired by Jinyan's own transformation, while Jinyan, for his part, is already thinking about breakfast. After freshening up in his chamber, Jinyan settles in for breakfast with the Yuk brothers. He encourages them to eat as much as they like. Delighted by his generosity, they ask if they can eat 7 times a day, to which he casually agrees without a second thought. Then they notice the injury on his face and ask about what happened last night. The question pulls him back to the memory of the ambush, which was an event that genuinely shook him. It's not the sort of thing that would have rattled him in his past life, but now, it makes him realize that he must go beyond his usual training. He needs to keep pushing himself, both to prepare for revenge against the demonic faction and to keep strengthening the Yuna merchant group. At that moment, he's informed about receiving a parcel. Opening it, he finds a letter from Gu Ung in the box. The letter jokingly praises him for improving while pointing out that he only had 1 drink last night. In truth, Gu Ung had gone to deliver something on his father's request but forgot about it, so now he's sending it over instead. He ends the letter by bidding Jinyan farewell and reminding him to get stronger, for the sake of their scoundrel group. When Jinyan opens the box, he finds several century-old tuber fleeceflower roots. He is amazed to realize that these herbs might be nearly 5 centuries old. This means they can help him raise his lightning 10-phase art to the 5th phase. Then he checks another pouch with a box inside. Inside, he finds a letter from the Taiho merchant group addressed to his father as a token of friendship. He concludes that his father must have used his connections to ask the Taiho merchant group, which is one of the richest in the Central Plains, to deliver these precious items. When he opens the box, his eyes widen at the sight of azurite essence, which is a treasure trove for martial artists. It is second only to the legendary natural wineberry, the moonflower, and the 10,000-year snow ginseng. This elixir is so rare that martial artists would kill for it. As he inhales its scent, he is certain it is truly azurite essence, having tasted a few drops in his past life. What he can't understand is how his father managed to get his hands on it. Then, without hesitation, he tosses each tuber fleeceflower roots to each of his Yuk brothers, instructing them to guard his room while he focuses on circulating his energy. He also orders them to eat the roots once he emerges from his room. One of the Yuk brothers eyes the item in his hand with curiosity. Jinyan explains that it's something that will make them stronger, but warns them not to lose it, because of his valuable its. One of them is astonished to hear this, then casually reveals that his father brought plenty of similar elixirs, just for him. Jinyan sighs, finally understanding that it all comes down to money. After consuming the rooty, Jinyan sits cross-legged in his room, meditating and gathering energy for the next 2 hours. The taste is bitter, but he thinks that's what makes it so much like martial arts itself, painful, yet rewarding. Soon he feels heat surging into his core from the elixir, and he's relieved that he has been training the vessel of this new body. But suddenly, a burning pain erupts through every part of him. He tries to suppress it, but it grows more and more unbearable. Gritting his teeth, he decides to tackle it head-on, channeling his energy to subdue it. After several agonizing seconds, he finally breathes a sigh of relief as the pain fades and his core begins to cool down. Then he uses his lightning art, a triumphant smile on his face as he realizes he has reached the 5th phase. Looking at his body, he notices that he reeks of alcohol, thanks to his body's old owner's alcoholism. With a smile, he bids the old Jinyan goodbye. Now it's time to attempt the azurite essence, which is not an easy process. Most bodies scatter like a sand cup in the furnace under its effect, but he knows he has to endure it. In the next moment, he senses the spirit energy of the essence surrounding him, as if testing him. At first, he decides to suppress his greed for power, but then he changes his mind and pushes against the energy, determined to surpass it and become insanely strong. 7 days pass while he remains confined in his room, working with the energy. His nerdy younger brother grows worried about him. He is stopped by Yuck Brother, who reminds him that their master strictly forbids anyone from entering the room. Before the nerdy brother can say anything, a large explosion erupts from his room, and he stands there like a ghost, eyes blazing with purple lightning. The Yuck brothers are stunned by the sight, but Hua Yan, the smartest among them, immediately recognizes it as the infamous energy deviation by the stench in the air. They rush to him as he collapses on the floor. The Yuck brothers try desperately to wake him up. Hua Yan, worried and scared, approaches his eldest brother, who raises his head with the same intense expression. Jinyan gets up and looks at his brother. His expression makes him appear like a revengeful ghost. He starts walking ahead. When his middle brother asks where he is going, he replies that he needs to cool off a bit and warns them not to follow him, leaving a very baffled Hua Yan questioning his statement. He is jumping from building to building at full speed, trying to get away not only from his home but also from his street. The power surging inside him, thanks to the azurite essence he consumes, makes him nearly uncontrollable. Jinyan's body is not strong enough to withstand the essence's power, which becomes uncontainable for the Fist King. So he runs away from the inhabited areas to protect the people from himself. After a while, he is far away and stops in a deserted place. The power is still uncontrollable. Remembering the stab he endured in his past life, he decides to release the energy from his body. He releases the energy in a powerful burst, visible from far away as it shoots from the ground. Rain pours over him as he stands there, satisfied with his energy. Checking the level of his white lightning 10-phase art, he grins, realizing that he has reached the 8th phase because of this energy. When he gets back to the town, his clothes are torn from the energy he released. Noticing the stares of the people around him, he buys some clothes. When he asks the shopkeeper about the price, the man refuses to take money, recognizing him as the one who defeated the rowdy groups like the Ouyang clan and the Little Deity sect, scaring off the other thugs. He points to his kids, saying they come here after this, so it's a token of gratitude from him. The kids also offer him an umbrella, and with a smile, he finally accepts their gratitude. Outside, he looks at the peaceful faces of the people around him and realizes the shopkeeper was right. He never truly understood the impact his fight had on others, but remembering the shopkeeper's words and the smiles of the people, he feels a strange feeling that he likes. Suddenly, the peace is broken by loud shouting. He looks ahead and sees some people chasing Myung-ho. His chameleon friend immediately greets him with a smile. Looking at his enemy, he dryly comments on his busy life. Meanwhile, at the palace of Moyong-chan, the Emperor Assembly holds a meeting. The conversation is led by the Dako clan leader, Doko Myong, who praises Moyong-bin for his great work in gathering all the leaders of the Emperor Assembly groups. Moyong-bin brushes off the gratitude and approaches the leader of the Ouyang clan, Ouyang Saeng, regarding the death of Ouyang Hu at the hands of our hero. The Ouyang patriarch is quite embarrassed to hear it, especially when Moyong-bin mentions that Ouyang Hu was a pro-martial artist who often got into trouble with the Yunha merchant group. Now, the head of the Emperor Assembly and the leader of the Namgong clan laugh at him. Ouyang Hu had also held the title of one of the strongest martial artists, yet they find it ridiculous that someone like him was defeated by a mere member of a merchant group. The leader of the Ouyang clan tries to reason that Ouyang Hu had already been banished from the clan, but he darkly expresses his intent to teach Jinyan a lesson, to make him recognize the supremacy of his clan. On the other side, our dude and his self-centered friend are being chased by the Crimson Reaper Alliance group. They demand that he hand over Myung-ho, who informed Jinyan about these wannabe kings in the downtown district. Myung-ho explains that these people stole the books he had for his auction business. He then asks his former friends about his hand's condition. Showing his bruised hands, Myung-ho jokes that he can hear them. Seeing this, he turns to the underworld goons and asks them to return Myung-ho once his hands are fully healed. Everyone starts mocking the sanity of our dude, casually talking to them like this. But when Jinyan doesn't react to their mocking, they realize he is not an ordinary guy, that he carries an oppressive aura. Still, they are angry and decide to beat him. One of the punks stops the others and comes forward. He asks Jinyan if he really knows their true identity. The next moment, he is about to threaten our dude, but he doesn't get a chance to finish his sentence before a hard poke from Jinyan sends him crashing into a wall far away. Everyone is shocked to see it. Unfazed by their expressions, Jinyan casually tells them to get lost, saying it's time he eats something, otherwise he might kill them out of hunger. It's better for them to come another time. He even adds that either he or Myung-ho will find them for their fight later. Finally, the Crimson Reaper gang understands and bids them goodbye for now. Now Myung-ho has the audacity to ask him to buy him something, especially noodles. He even mentions that when Jinyan beat him last time, he almost died because he was starving, and rambles on about the importance of food for his recovery. Finally, Jinyan tells him to shut up, saying he should just ask him without adding too much. Then they head to Jinpyong's place to eat noodles. Myung-ho is quite happy to have a full meal. But then he notices a change in his friend's eating habits, as he was someone who used to eat so little now eats like they've been starving for days. He lectures them a little on the natural course of change and then orders 4 bowls for his friends. The conversation shifts to the Yuk twins as our boy informs Myung-ho that they are doing fine and usually training at his place. Myung-ho comments on their gluttonous eating habits, which take a big dent out of his expenses when they are with him. Jin-yeon casually reminds him that he is wealthy enough. His former friends irritatingly retort that he loots his money as well. The conversation then changes as Ming-ho becomes interested in Jin-yeon's source of martial arts knowledge. His friend presses for a reason. Myung-ho casually answers that he wants to defeat the Crimson Reaper gang, and martial arts can be quite helpful for him. In this regard, he also shares information about the gang leader, who has hundreds of subordinates. Wherever they fight, there are so many of them, though they run away when necessary. At that, Jin-yeon offers to train him personally, which Myung-ho immediately agrees to. He promises to follow every instruction, which Myung-ho takes seriously, as he is not called Poisonous Fox for nothing. The next moment, he surprises his greedy ex-friend by demanding him to bow to him. Myung-ho is quite embarrassed, but he still bows. Then he raises himself, while complaining about Jin-yeon better teach him after this. The next moment, our boy opens his umbrella and demonstrates how to swing his wrist for a sword move. This angers his former friend, as he just bowed while complaining about how he was going to dump trash on his merchant group gate. But the next moment, he is hit by the same umbrella as Jin-yeon instructs him to hold it with one hand and swing it the same way he demonstrates. He must do this with the borrowed umbrella hundreds of thousands of times before coming back to find him. Myung-ho hesitates, unsure if he can really repeat this stunt that many times. While taunting him with his title, Jin-yeon tells him to give up on learning martial arts if he can't do it. Myung-ho remains hesitant even after the warning. Our dude decides to give his former friend a reality check. He grabs his collar and reminds him that killing someone is not child's play. The umbrella swinging exercise will train his arms so he can kill dozens of Crimson Reaper gang members with a wooden sword, yet so far, he has only been running scared from them. Then he deadpans that someone pitiful like him might as well just die. Myung-ho nervously replies that he doesn't want to die. Calmly, Jin-yeon asks him to choose whether he wants to become a person worth the title of Poisonous Fox or stay like a cowardly rat. For a moment, his former friend remains silent. Then he finally asks to borrow the umbrella and leaves with it. After paying for him and sending off his friend, Jin-yeon ponders over what he said and wonders whether Myung-ho will stick with the training or not. His thoughts then turn to the Crimson Reaper Alliance gang, and he decides to keep his promise to track them down. Meanwhile, at the base of the Passion House, the leader is furious, beating some of his subordinates while others quiver at what is happening. He demands to know their reason for letting Myung-ho go. After learning everything, the gang leader contemplates, but he can't digest the fact that a merchant group's son stands against his rowdy underworld minions. One of his subordinates explains that Jin-yeon is not just someone claiming to be a master in martial arts. Some even say he is the strongest person in the MANHWA region, but seeing their master's expression, he doesn't finish his sentence. The leader then orders the others back to the group tasked with finding both of them. He deadpans that he wants both Myung-ho and Jin-yeon dead. Meanwhile, our boy is also learning about the Crimson Reaper Alliance and its leader. One of the Yuk brothers informs him that the gang is infamous for tearing apart their opponents. Up until now, they have killed many prominent leaders of different sects, such as the Napio sect, the Horn sect, and so on. After doing this, he absorbs these smaller factions in the Yukon region, making his group even larger. As a result, establishments and businesses in the Yukon area have no choice but to pay tribute money to the Crimson Reaper Alliance, regardless of the type of business they run. They are after Myung-ho because of the same tribute money. Jin-yeon then explains that the gang has taken over his former friend's auction house. The Yuk boys agrees, noting that something like this would likely be done by the gang. After learning all of this, our guy realizes he has no choice but to find the gang. Otherwise, his merchant group will be dragged into the mess once they learn his identity. While at the Yukon shopping district, inside the Passion House, the madam is instructing her subordinates when they suddenly hear a loud shriek. They immediately rush to the girl. One of the escorts informs her that the girl is with the leader of the Crimson Reaper Alliance, but then they grow worried about another girl who is still inside with the leader. Seeing the girl's condition, the madam tells her subordinate to escort her to her room and let her rest, while she checks on the new guest. Meanwhile, the subordinates are instructed not to disturb the leader of the Crimson Reaper. MANHWA then approaches her new guest, who is none other than our boy. She tries to flatter him, but he directly asks about the Crimson Reaper leader. MANHWA asks if he has an appointment. He even asks if he will find the leader upstairs. MANHWA hesitates, wondering about his identity, but admits anyway that the leader is upstairs. As he heads upstairs, he warns her to evacuate the others, as he is going to meet the leader. Seeing that the other girl is still inside, she tries to warn him about the leader's immense strength. However, our boy is unfazed as he moves ahead. In front of the leader's group, the guards warn him that this is a restricted area, but he keeps going. When a guard tries to stop him, he simply throws him behind like he is nothing. The other guards of the Crimson Reaper Alliance prepare to fight, asking whether our oblivious boy even knows who they are. He calmly asks again about the whereabouts of their leader. It seems everyone around is part of the Crimson Reaper Alliance, as a large number of men hurry toward him with the clear intent to kill. Jinyan, on the other hand, calmly tells them that he also intends to kill them. One of them comes at him with a sword, but he grabs the man's head and throws him away. Another goon rushes at him, but he dodges the attack and kills him with his own weapon. He then rips open the door of one room, but it's not the right one. He wonders aloud whether he needs to destroy the doors of every room in order to find the leader. Without hesitation, he bursts through every door on this floor, but the leader is in none of them. He concludes that he needs to search for him on the next floor. After a while, on the 5th floor, the leader is sitting in his room when the door suddenly smashes open. His subordinate immediately informs him that the person who did it is none other than the merchant group's son they are searching for. It seems the leader also notices the chaos outside and casually asks whether our boy is there to pay the debt of his former friend. Jinyan, however, casually comments that the leader is on too high a floor. The leader asks whether he is afraid to climb higher while fighting the welcome party of his subordinates. Our boy moves ahead, calmly telling him that it's his specialty to perform these kinds of stunts. When he comes face to face with the leader, the rowdy man looks like a giant compared to him. The so-called giant notices the height difference and grins, declaring that his specialty is looking down on others. Looking at his haughty expression, Jinyan knows that he is the typical kind of underworld thug, bad enough that he doesn't feel guilty about beating him up. This is exactly why he likes these kinds of punks. In the next moment, he notices a girl behind the leader, clearly bleeding. The leader follows his gaze and grins, haughtily declaring that he couldn't control his strength. Our boy is beyond furious at a person who has no conscience and likely never will. He asks the leader to let the girl go, all while pondering the way he will kill him. Noticing the fire in his eyes, the leader claims that anyone who comes to finish him off has the same intense gaze, but in the end, he rips them apart with his own hands. Meanwhile, people outside scramble to escape the impending danger. One of the members shouts that a crazy person is trying to crash the Passion House. It seems that this crazy person is not our boy, but his so-called childhood friend, who is swinging his umbrella and driving everyone away. He has finally swung the umbrella 2,874 times. However, he is frustrated, realizing he still hasn't completed the task of 100,000 swings, and he starts counting again from the beginning. Suddenly, he hears a large explosion behind him. As he looks back, his thoughts wander, wondering if it is related to his friend. On the other hand, Jinyan kicks the leader with such force that it pushes him outside the building, breaking the wall behind him. The leader looks at our boy, who, instead of remaining a spectator, jumps after him and lands gracefully in front of his opponent. Even beaten up, the Red Reaper gets back on his feet, ready to face him, as he takes a weapon from his subordinate. With full power, he throws the weapon at him, but Jinyan dodges while leaping into the air. He tries again, but this time Jinyan calmly grabs the chain while the hilt is still in the leader's hand. This also gives the Red Reaper the chance to gauge the strength of our guy, which matches his own. So, he releases the weapon and rushes toward him in order to finish him off with his rebound force. He is sure that Jinyan won't be able to block this attack. Looking at the style, our sharp boy immediately recognizes it as the meteor hammer and fist technique. He also observes that this person must have been taught by some traditional martial artist, judging by his clean fighting style. However, the leader underestimates him. Jinyan is a fist king, and he easily blocks his opponent's attack. The next moment, he punches the man hard in the gut, prompting a shriek from him. Looking at his injured stomach, the leader immediately recognizes Jinyan's fist-trained style and readies himself to give him a proper fight. His muscles ripple with raw energy as he rushes forward, ready to tear him apart. Calm as ever, Jinyan grabs his neck and slams him onto the ground without any effort. The leader doesn't understand why he is at a disadvantage against this man, even though he is fighting with all his might. Now our boy grabs his face and throws back the leader's own taunt at him, that now he is the one looking up at Jinyan. He then begins the second stage of his white lightning art, while still holding the leader's face, who is now screaming in pain. With each passing moment, he increases the stage to the next level until he is using the 5th phase. The Crimson Reaper Alliance lackeys, watching their boss writhing and hearing his cries, wonder whether they should step in to help him, though their faces clearly show the fear holding them back. One of them recognizes the technique of the White Lightning 10-stage art. When Jinyan finishes, everyone is overwhelmed to see nothing but ashes where their leader once stood. Rising to his feet, he looks coldly at the Crimson Reaper group and asks who gave them the right to collect taxes and tribute money from the hard-earned wages of weak people. Then he challenges them. If they want to flaunt their strength, they should come to him first. He warns that they will meet the same end as their boss. Meanwhile, the Crimson Reaper Alliance is fired up, while thinking that since he is only one man, they might be able to kill him anyway. Then Myung-ho, looking at him, wonders aloud that if the Red Reaper is dead, they might not need to pay tribute anymore. The man beside him comments that Jinyan might start demanding tribute money instead, but Myung-ho immediately denies it, defending his childhood friend. He knows that his friend already has enough money to never stoop to such means. Then he starts counting his umbrella swings once again, which prompts a passerby to comment on his antics, calling him crazy. With each strike Myung-ho swings his umbrella, he recalls the time when Jinyan asked him whether he truly wanted to be a rat or a poisonous fox, like he claimed to be. He knows that every person has a spark in their heart to do something, and it is his own responsibility to nurture that spark. He understands that his friend wants to be strong to the extent that it borders on madness, but suddenly he stops, looking at his friend fighting the Crimson Reaper goons, and declares that he is the poisonous fox, not a cowardly rat. After dealing with the Crimson Reaper alliance, Jinyan doesn't even wash the blood from his clothes when his concerned nerdy brother shows up at his door. He makes an excuse that he was out for a drink. His middle brother has come for some advice on some matter, but the concerned one wants answers about the blood. Our boy consoles him, while explaining that it's not his, which his brother has already guessed. Then Hwa-eon finally gets to the point that he came here because he wants to send the merchant groups something as a token of their gratitude for providing such precious elixirs. First, he wants to send something to Taiho Merchant Group, but wants to know how much the medicine they send is worth. At that, Jinyan remembers that the said group is the one who sent the azurite essence, and answers that the value is so high that someone like him cannot even measure its worth. His brother is baffled, unable to comprehend what could possibly be given for something so valuable. Jinyan believes that sending goods or money is not a good idea. To his brother's surprise, he proposes forming a merchant alliance instead. He further explains that besides big names like Taiho, there are also smaller groups like the West Escort Establishment that don't have any official form of protection. An alliance like this would be a good way to repay them by offering protection. Hwa-eon is hesitant, feeling it seems bigger than what they can handle. Jinyan advises him to start small. Just include Taiho Merchant Group and the Westwind Escort Establishment for now as a way of repayment. The nerdy brother, already busy planning, wants to know the rules and membership fees. Jinyan tells him not to charge any fees for now and to keep the rules simple. His brother wants to know about the purpose of the alliance. At that, he remembers the words of the escort establishment representative who had asked for his protection after he drove out 2 gangster organizations from that town. So he states that their purpose is to protect the lives of merchants. Besides, he wants to form a proper line of communication so they can reach him in dire situations. His brother points out that conditions may arise which even big groups like Taiho Merchant Group cannot handle. For example, if someone from the underworld of Jianghu harasses them, what kind of action would he take? He states firmly that he will personally handle such matters, which makes his brother hesitant. But he explains that since the merchants gave him medicine that made him stronger, he can do this much for them in return. Then comes the issue of naming the alliance. Hwa-eon suggests calling it the Great Merchant Alliance, but he refuses, not wanting it to sound like the Crimson Reaper Alliance, and corrects it to the Great Merchant Association. At that point, Hwa-eon also reminds him that ever since his scoundrel brother came back, his workload has increased. He apologizes, but Hwa-eon brushes it off with a smile, saying it's better for merchants to keep themselves busy. At that moment, one of their subordinates comes shouting that a new problem has arisen. When asked, he reveals in a panic that Lord Uyang and his disciples have personally come. Meanwhile, the said group is sitting in the main hall of the merchant group. Lord Uyang is still furious about the humiliation he received during the Rulers' Association meeting, so he emphasizes to his disciples that each of them must take turns fighting Jinyan because he wants to give him a painful death. Besides, their family name cannot be restored with just one victory. All of them comply immediately. Then Shin Sobaek asks whether his 2 companions are going to use weapons, since he is going with a bare-handed fight. Uyang Myung agrees to use his fists as well, but Woon is not as confident and intends to use his sword. His brother mocks him for this, but Woon reasons that Jinyan is someone who has defeated someone like Uyang-hu, who had plenty of experience in Jianghu. Myung, however, scoffs at that, believing Uyang-hu was not strong enough. Finally, he arrogantly orders the servants to summon Jinyan to come personally, but instead the Yuk brothers arrive and inform them that they are to come to the annex by the invitation of their master. After a while, the guests stand in front of our boy, who is already waiting for them. He welcomes them, and all 3 martial artists introduce themselves. He is, however, surprised by the presence of Lord Uyang, who apologizes for coming unannounced, but admits he couldn't resist coming to witness his strength. Jinyan understands they are here for a duel and asks about the specific format. Lord Uyang suggests that he fight all of his disciples, since they want to learn from him, while stating the rules. Whoever loses consciousness, becomes immovable, or falls from the ring will be declared the loser. Jinyan accepts the simple rules and asks to begin the match. The first is Myung. Lord Uyang is quite cocky about his son's victory. Meanwhile, Myung senses that it doesn't feel like he is facing just a merchant's son, but rather a seasoned Jianghu warrior, which makes him realize that Jinyan's victory over Uyang-hu must have been genuine. Jinyan asks about his weapon, but before Myong can even finish his haughty reply, he receives a hard punch from Jinyan that sends him crashing against the far wall. The cup in Lord Uyang's hand crushes from the shock. Jinyan calmly reminds him that he can draw a sword if given the chance, then challenges the next opponent to step forward. Then Woon decides to go next and asks Shin to take care of his brother, which Shin agrees to. Once he stands in front of our boy, Woon is ready to unleash all his power and techniques, and Jinyan wants him to do so in order to have a good match. With that, the match begins. Without wasting any time, Woon draws his sword. With a swift motion, he rushes toward our dude, trying to strike him, but Jinyan easily dodges. At the same time, he notices that Woon is indeed a fine swordsman. However, Jinyan is sharper, as he begins making his moves after carefully observing the pattern of Woon's swordsmanship while dodging. That is why he can now evade every strike with just his bare hands. Now it's time for Jinyan to go on the offensive. He starts with the 5th phase of his lightning art and lowers his energy level to the 3rd phase. Woon braces himself, trying to block the attack with a sword swing. In the next moment, Jinyan sends a lightning roar attack straight at him, knocking his opponent down with a single strike. Shin doesn't believe it. Myong suggests that they should stop the duel because if all 3 of them are defeated, it will bring even more shame. However, Shin is not willing to back away from the opportunity to fight someone who uses only bare fists, since he himself has trained in palm strike techniques. He requests a spar with our boy. Seeing his fists, Jinyan becomes genuinely excited to fight someone with real skill. With that, both fistmasters clash. The clash continues for a while, with Shin striking and Jinyan dodging, but Shin grows annoyed that Jinyan has only been defending until now. Determined, he decides to unleash his ultimate attack and see how Jinyan will block it. He unleashes his whirlwind wheel-crushing palm strike, creating a small tornado surging toward Jinyan, who grins at the impressive move. However, he remarks that it is too big. Calmly, he grabs Shin's foot firmly, making him shout in pain, and then throws him hard onto the ground, commenting that he got a good duel. Myong is sulking because they don't gain anything good from this defeat. Seeing the displeased face of Lord Uyang, Jinyan doesn't understand the reason behind it. Meanwhile, Lord Uyang is trembling with anger because he realizes that Jinyan is truly undefeated, and bringing in another person would be useless. The problem is that the ruler association's pride will be crushed, and he and his clan will also be mocked by this defeat. Deciding on another tactic, he asks Jinyan to take a walk to the market. He notices the peaceful environment there and comments that Jinyan must have many suppliers from this place. Without wasting more time, he offers Jinyan membership in the Ruler Association. He explains that Jinyan doesn't need to enroll his whole merchant group as he can join as an individual, and his merchant group will still be protected. Jinyan is taken aback by the offer, knowing that this association already includes the names of great clans. But he raises the issue that the Ruler Association is forged from clans who left the Murim Alliance, which was once composed of the 9 great sects. Lord Uyang confirms it while making the excuse that they are just friendly rivals of the Murim Alliance. Jinyan thinks about the information he received that the Uyang clan only recently joined the association and now wants to save their reputation after the defeat. Lord Uyang also confirms his suspicion by admitting that his subordinate, Uyang Hu, was spreading strange rumors about Jinyan, which badly affected the clan reputation, though he himself has nothing against him. That is why he wants Jinyan to join the Ruler Association, to save face. This, he believes, is his best chance to show his association that someone like Jinyan is under him. Jinyan asks what will happen if he refuses. Lord Uyang points out that he won't lose anything by joining it, and as a merchant's son, he should understand that. Jinyan retorts that he has nothing to do with an ordinary martial arts group when he doesn't lack money. Then he dismisses him, ending the conversation. At that, Uyang becomes truly furious and threatens whether Jinyan wants his whole group massacred, which momentarily stops our boy. Uyang warns him that he has enough power to wipe out the entire merchant group while sparing Jinyan's life and turning him into a public enemy. He asks if Jinyan really thinks he is strong enough alone to crush an entire clan, let alone the Ruler Association. Before he can continue his threat, he receives a strong punch from Jinyan, who warns that he will kill him first and then wipe out his whole clan afterward. He even claims he'll send the blame to Uyang's eldest son, warning that it's better if Uyang doesn't test him. Lord Uyang still has the audacity to call his words the most vile he has ever heard, and accuses him of being a man with no shame or restraint. With that, he releases his Poison Toad Broad Strike, which is a technique Uyang specialists are trained to use against leaders of the 4 great clans. He is confident that even with all his power, Jinyan cannot withstand this strike. But he freezes when he realizes that Jinyan is emitting lightning strokes that are devouring his poison. In the next moment, Jinyan punches him so hard that Uyang slams into the wall and collapses to the ground, coughing blood. Jinyan comments that Uyang is much weaker than he pretends to be. Uyang tells him to kill him now, because no matter the outcome, Jinyan will become a public enemy by doing this, and the Ruler Association will come after him as well. No matter what happens, Uyang insists, Jinyan will definitely lose. Hearing this, Jinyan steps closer to Uyang, whispering darkly that he will make him regret those words for the rest of his life. After a while, everyone sees Jinyan dragging Lord Uyang by his hair. They are shocked by his condition, especially his sons. Mayong protests, but Jinyan shuts him up, warning that he will suffer the same punishment as his father. Another son worries about their father's life, but Jinyan answers that he is alive for now and orders his subordinates to prepare a carriage. The eldest son of Uyang demands to know his reasoning for doing such a thing. Jinyan replies that their father had threatened to slaughter his merchant group and frame him as the culprit, which leaves everyone stupefied. Then he announces that he is going to the ruler association to report the matter himself. He asks Uyang guards to come with him as witnesses. Before he can continue, Shin points out that the ruler association doesn't have a headquarters. He informs him that meetings are usually held at the homes of the clan heads. In this way, he can go to the Moyong clan estate, which is the closest. With that, he orders his guards and the Yuk brothers to keep an eye on Lord Uyang's disciple and sons. Then he turns to his middle brother and orders him to make a report to submit to the Muram Alliance about today's incident. They then head toward the Moyong estate. Meanwhile, in the carriage, Uyang is bound by ropes and asks about their destination. Jinyan answers him. Next moment, Uyang asks his guard to bring him some water, as he is parched. The guard hesitates, unsure whether our boy will permit it. But Jinyan, on the other hand, is amazed that the lord of a clan himself is asking for water, yet he doesn't comply. He realizes this person must be an assassin. With that, he burns him with his lightning. Then the driver asks about the incident, but Jinyan tells him to keep going. He then turns to another guard and asks about his assassin association. He explains that it is called the Gold-Silver Assassin Group, as they are usually categorized by gold or silver rank, and he himself is a silver rank assassin. Jinyan then asks Lord Uyang about the cost of hiring such people, but Uyang is reluctant to answer. So our boy threatens to break his body parts, which forces him to comply. He admits that he paid 800 nyang, far more expensive than their usual rate, but our dude points out that it wasn't worth his life, because the assassin group leader was supposed to kill him after he will massacre the entire merchant group. Killing assassins, he explains, is the usual way for clans to cover their dirty hands. He adds that this is the typical way clans clean their tracks. In this way, his life is worth no more than 800 nyang, and he advises the assassin to train harder to raise the value of his life. Jinyan changes his tone, saying that someone who kills people for money should not be called human at all, and he even claps sarcastically for the assassin's life purpose. Then he casually points out that their group of 3 assassins now has 1 injured and 1 dead. After a while, they reach Moyong Estate. Everyone recognizes Lord Uyang, and they are curious about both the situation and Jinyan's identity. Finally, Moyong Bin, the leader of the Moyong clan, arrives and asks about Uyang's condition. Then he turns to Jinyan and introduces himself. Jinyan also introduces himself, though he doesn't quite understand, because the last time he checked, Moyong Chu was the clan leader. Bin asks about the reason behind the Uyang clan leader being dragged in by Jinyan as if he were some criminal. Jinyan offers to answer and explains the entire situation. One of Bin's subordinates points out that this is a grave matter, especially since the Muram Alliance will soon get wind of it. But Bin stops him and asks Jinyan's purpose in bringing this issue directly to him. He says he doubts Jinyan fully understands the danger of the ruler association, so he assumes Jinyan has come to reveal the truth in advance. Then our boy asks about his strategy to tackle this problem, as it may ultimately fall on him. Bin thinks the real answer is to eliminate the danger, but someone like Uyang Sang's murder can easily escalate into making the entire Uyang clan his enemy, while putting him under the surveillance of the Muram Alliance. At that moment, Uyang starts shouting at Bin, claiming that he is the one who caused all this chaos, that his mockery pushed him into doing it. Then he pleads with him for help, promising he will do anything in return. Knocking him down, Bin declares that Uyang has no shame left. He then orders his men to arrest the assassins while keeping them alive under watch. Afterward, he politely apologizes for all the mess caused by Uyang, assuring that the ruler association will no longer support the clan. Then he invites Jinyan to join him for a meal, and Jinyan agrees. After a while, the meal is laid in front of both of them, and Jinyan eats to his content. Meanwhile, Bin cannot even understand how someone like Jinyan, who defeated the Uyang clan patriarch, can exist. To test him, he asks what strategy Jinyan will adopt to resolve this matter, since no matter what, he cannot kill Sang but must handle it in a reasonable way. Jinyan asks about his plan instead. So Bin begins outlining his plan, to send Sang to the Muram Alliance, which can free them of Sang's deeds and shift the responsibility onto the Uyang clan. Besides, to preserve their standing, the ruler association is ready to take the damage, and he is sure that other clan leaders will agree. Jinyan likes the plan. Then he asks whether the former clan leader, Moyong Chu, went through the Golden Basin hand-washing ceremony, which is a kind of retirement ritual. Hearing this, Bin comments that Jinyan is slow on the news of the Jianghu world because his father has been missing for a year. He is taken aback by it. Bin explains that they sent a search party of main branch members but didn't get any trace of him. At that moment, our guy thinks it is the same time he reincarnated into Jinyan's body. It means that along with him, Chu also died. So he questions whether Chu had any hostility with the demonic faction. Bin answers that the demonic faction has been silent for 20 years, and if they were to rise again, he would have noticed it. Besides, he doubts that the demonic faction has any reason to target his father. At that, he remembers his past life, where he also had nothing to do with the faction but was suddenly ambushed and killed. To assess the situation, he asks how far Bin's father would go if he were ambushed by a number of swordsmen. Bin replies that his father is not someone who can be defeated by mere swordsmen. Our boy then points out, what if those swordsmen had blade-proof bodies? This leaves Bin confused. Now recalling his last incident when he tried to attack those assassins, he remembers how they survived even after being struck by his 9th phase lightning energy. He knows that no ordinary man can endure even the 9th phase lightning energy if he strikes with his current body power. He doesn't believe that someone like them can withstand his strength. So he concludes that they must have blade-proof bodies or something equally impossible. If men with such power, including the sorcerer who once controlled his body, were to join forces, he thinks only someone beyond heaven could face such a force. So he is certain that Bin won't be receiving any trace of his father or the demonic faction, yet he still doesn't understand the reason behind their secrecy or their true motive in doing this. Meanwhile, in a secluded place, a woman known as the Heavenly Demon addresses a man called the Sword Demon and informs him that they have found the Sword King. The Sword Demon then orders his faction to prepare for the hunt for the Sword King.